6 years ago, moving to a new neighborhood marked a surprising chapter in my life. My wife, Emily, our daughter, Lily, and I settled into a cozy house in a friendly community. We quickly befriended our neighbors, Jack and Sarah. Jack, a robust real estate agent, had a knack for storytelling, while Sarah, a tall and slender blonde, was a dedicated mother to their son, Ethan. Emily and Sarah became fast friends, often meeting up while Jack and I bonded over golf, making it our monthly ritual. Our families grew closer, sharing numerous dinners, celebrations, and casual get-togethers. Despite the age gap, Jack and I connected through our love for golf, often enjoying friendly competitions. Emily and Sarah's camaraderie further strengthened our bond, creating an extended family feeling. I had no idea these ordinary moments would soon be overshadowed by events that would challenge my marriage and shake our intertwined lives. One notable golf day, I played a decent round, finishing 18 holes 7 strokes over par. For years, Jack and I had been golfing together a couple of times a month. He became my friend when Emily and I moved into our home. Jack, a large man and great conversationalist, thrived in real estate. Sarah stayed home to care for their son, Ethan, who recently turned 18 and was preparing for university. Sarah and Emily hit it off immediately and now met several times a week. Emily, a fit and attractive natural blonde with shoulder-length hair, remained the most beautiful woman to me until everything changed. When Emily said, "We need to talk," I braced for bad news. Initially, I thought it might be something about her car or a family issue. Our daughter, Lily, recently turned 18 and had started dating a boy named Ryan. My mind raced through possibilities, including pregnancy, but I was almost convinced it was something else when I sat down with Emily. "Robert, my dear, you know how much I love you, right?" Emily said, her voice soft and tender. "Of course, Em." I didn't doubt it for a minute, I replied, trying to stay cheerful despite the suspicions creeping into my mind that she might be pregnant. "And I do, Robert. I love you with all my soul and always will. I look forward to us spending the rest of our lives together," Emily continued, her tone sincere and loving. "Me too, honey, but what's the matter?" I asked, sensing something was amiss. "Robert, we've been together for 20 years, 18 of them married. I love you more every day. I've dedicated my life to you and Lily. Do you agree?" she asked, her voice now serious and intent. I realized it wasn't about Lily but something Emily wanted that she thought I'd object to. She never mentioned wanting another child, so I quickly abandoned that theory. "I agree, honey. You always put Lily and me first." "Yes, and that's why I believe you will support me now," she said, her tone hopeful. "Well, I'm listening," I responded, my curiosity piqued. "Robert, as we age, our bodies, energy levels, and sex drive change. You've always been a wonderful lover, but as you age, it's harder to keep up." "It's natural, and I understand that," Emily said, her voice steady but carrying an undertone of something more. "I really didn't like how things suddenly turned out. The last thing any man wants is for his wife to question his masculinity. I had a bad feeling." She continued talking, and I just nodded, waiting for the real issue to emerge. "For me, it's different. I need closeness almost every day," she said, her tone now slightly pleading. "Don't you think I feel the same way, Emily? I love you and want to care for you, but you can't completely fight biology," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I know and understand this, and I don't blame you." "It's just part of aging," she replied, her voice softening. "Okay, Emily, you've pointed out my sexual shortcomings. Are you going to get to the point?" I asked, feeling my patience wearing thin. As she talked about my inability to fully satisfy her, I suspected she was about to ask for permission to have an affair. I was almost right. "Robert, please understand, I'm not trying to belittle you. This is hard for me to say, and I hope we can discuss it calmly," Emily said, her voice trembling slightly. I stayed silent, waiting. "Robert, I have a lover. It's been almost a year now," she finally confessed, her voice breaking. I was stunned and couldn't respond. She kept talking to fill the silence. We meet a couple of times a week. I don't love him. I love only you. I tried to keep things normal at home. You always had me when you wanted, and that won't change. You're my husband, and your needs come first, she said, her voice desperate for understanding. So, you intend to continue this? I asked, my voice shaking with suppressed anger. Yes, Robert. My needs have increased, and I need this, but it won't change how I feel about you or our lovemaking, she replied, her voice firm. Who is he? I demanded, my voice rising. I'm not telling you. It's not one of your friends or colleagues, just someone I met, she answered, her voice flat. And you expect me to accept this because I love you? I said, disbelief coloring my words. Yes, I know you love me and want me to be happy. I've tried hard to make sure you didn't notice any changes. The alternative would be a divorce, alimony, and child support. I love you and don't want that, she said, her voice now calm and calculated. I tried to stay calm, but inside I was furious. How dare she threaten me with divorce? Lily might not be happy living with a cheating mother. You've got it all figured out, haven't you? You deceived me and now expect me to accept it, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Please don't see it that way, honey, she pleaded. Don't call me that, I snapped. Being angry and using obscene language won't help, she said, her voice admonishing. It may not, but it makes me feel better, I retorted. I know this is hard to hear, but this won't affect us. You didn't notice before, and you won't in the future. It's just something I do for myself. It's like volunteering in my free time, she explained, her voice detached. Okay, let's assume I believe you, which I don't, but why now? I asked, my voice tinged with suspicion. What do you mean? She asked, confused. You managed to lie and deceive me for a year. Why tell me now? I demanded, needing to understand her motive. I plan to show you how much I love you and how grateful I am for allowing this, but he's taking me to Hawaii for a week, Emily said, her voice calm but determined. Are you kidding me? You leave for a week with your lover while I work to support you, and I'm supposed to welcome you back. What did I do to deserve such disrespect? I retorted, my anger barely contained. You didn't do anything, Robert. This isn't disrespectful to you. I need you to understand that I'm doing this for myself, and it doesn't change how I feel about you, she replied, her tone pleading for understanding. I don't get it. What about Lily? What will you tell her about your solo vacation? We've always traveled as a family, I questioned, trying to grasp the situation. I already told Lily that some friends and I are taking a trip, and it won't affect our family vacation this summer. She didn't mind and might even be glad I'm going, Emily explained, almost cheerfully. She giggled, which felt like a joke. Oh, this is such a light-hearted topic, and you think I'll believe this lie? I asked, incredulous. What proof do you have otherwise, Robert? I showed her brochures and promised to tell her all about it when I return. She'd rather believe me than you, she said, her voice confident. So, you can do whatever you want, and my opinion doesn't matter? If I don't like it, too bad. How do you expect to stay married to me after this? I demanded, feeling the weight of her betrayal. We love each other, Robert. Everything will go back to normal once I return, Emily insisted, her voice soothing but unconvincing. I'm tired of this nonsense, I said, my patience exhausted. She hadn't thought about the long-term consequences. Even if we stayed married, which we wouldn't if she went, things wouldn't be the same. I made one last try. Emily, don't go. We can work on our marriage and make things better. Just please don't go. Robert, I'm going, but everything will be as before. You'll see. I love you too much to let this change anything, she replied, her resolve unshaken. I tried. This had already changed everything, but she had done her duty by telling me. Have a good time. Unlike you, I won't lie. I'll be in the workshop if you care, I said, my voice heavy with resignation. Robert, be careful. Operating power tools while upset is dangerous, she cautioned. I walked to the basement, ignoring her. I couldn't believe she thought I'd agree to this. Despite her thoughts, I intended to tell Lily what her mother was up to, a trip to Hawaii, of all places. We had planned to go there as a family, now she decided to go with that guy. I considered my options. Divorce was likely. In our no-fault state, I'd be responsible for child support and possibly alimony. I could afford it, but I didn't like the idea of her living with her boyfriend while I worked and lived alone. I didn't see any other option but to stay until Lily left for college, then leave. But I wouldn't touch Emily again. I'd been in the workshop for hours when I heard Lily come home. Usually, she spent Saturdays with friends or Ryan. I decided to tell Lily the truth when I heard her talking to Emily. Hello, Mom. Have you told Dad about your trip to Hawaii with Mr. Harrington yet? Lily asked, her voice casual but tinged with curiosity. Damn, she knew everything. Emily hadn't told her a story about friends. Lily knew the truth and didn't mind. Who is Mr. Harrington? Did Lily know him? I thought to myself, feeling a surge of anger and confusion. Yes, I told him. He wasn't happy and is now sulking in the carpentry shop, but he'll come around. He has no choice, Emily replied, her tone dismissive. I can't believe he's so selfish. If he truly loved you, he'd be happy for you to get your needs met. He'll have to accept that you need a younger man. As long as he gets his way, he has no reason to complain, Lily said, her voice full of teenage indignation. Who was this kid? Emily had been filling Lily's head with this nonsense for years. She truly was Emily's mini-me, I realized with a sinking heart. I told him that, but he took it personally. His fragile male ego can't accept that he can't meet all my needs. I explained that people change with age, but he sees me as his woman, Emily continued, her voice laden with condescension. No respect. I'm glad I introduced you to Mr. Harrington. He's excited about the trip and has special plans for you, Lily said almost gleefully. My daughter knew about the affair and helped her mother. She seemed to revel in my humiliation. How does my 18-year-old daughter know anyone older than her mother that she could date and afford a trip to Hawaii? At least I have a name to investigate, I thought, feeling a mixture of betrayal and resolve. Honey, please don't talk to him about our sex life, okay? It's uncomfortable and inappropriate, Emily admonished, her voice suddenly stern. You told me things weren't working with Dad and that it was time to find a lover, like Grandma did. You complained about not meeting anyone, and I found someone for you. That gives me some freedom, Lily responded, sounding defiant and proud. True, but you still shouldn't talk about it with Rick. You're underage, and he's your teacher, Emily said, her voice filled with concern. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wife and daughter were conspiring together, and Lily was talking about things she shouldn't even understand. I needed to confront this situation head-on, but first, I needed to gather all the facts. Jackpot. Now my plans took a drastic turn. I wouldn't stay in the same house with these two traitors. Divorce wasn't an option either. I'd be responsible for expenses until Lily graduated in June. I'd move out, live elsewhere, and keep a household account for bills and food. I'd stay in touch by email and phone, deciding which costs to cover. Lily's days of getting everything she wanted, like the car she'd been asking for, were over. I could arrange everything within 2 weeks while Emily's credit card still worked. I'd find a place to live easily. I wouldn't pretend everything was fine, but wouldn't make a scene either. Lily would eventually learn that I knew about her role in her mother's betrayal, and I was curious about her reaction. I went upstairs to take a shower and planned to go out for dinner. I didn't want to sit at the table with traitors. As I entered the kitchen, both glanced at me. Lily ran up as usual. Hello, Daddy, Lily said, her voice cheerful. She tried to hug me, but I just stood there. She pulled away, puzzled. "What's the matter, Dad?" she asked, her tone confused. I looked at them and walked to my bedroom. I'd moved my things into a spare room until I could leave. For now, I closed the door and got into the shower. Emily, of course, couldn't leave me alone. She found her way in. "What the hell was that?" "Be angry with me if you want, but don't take it out on your daughter." "She didn't do anything to you," Emily said, her voice sharp. I stared at her, then got back into the shower. "So, silent treatment? How mature. When you're done sulking, let me know." "Dinner is ready," she said, slamming the door behind her. I shrugged and got dressed. Coming out, I saw them eating. They fell silent when I entered. Lily smiled, hoping I'd join them and maybe apologize. I turned and walked out. I got into my BMW and left. I ate alone at a local steakhouse, reading news articles to pass the time. No calls from anyone. I watched a late movie, got home around 1 a.m., and found everyone asleep. I quickly fell asleep in the guest room. Of course, my good times were short-lived. Despite everything, I still found Emily attractive. "Why did you sleep here last night?" she asked. "To avoid you, Emily." "I didn't want to sleep with you," I replied bluntly. "Seems like part of you is interested," she said, eyeing me. I turned away, getting off the bed, and saw disappointment on her face. "Robert, I'm still the woman you loved all these years." "Let me take care of you," she said softly. "You're not the same woman, and that's not the heart you shared, Emily. As long as you have another partner, I'm out." "It's your choice, your husband or your boyfriend," I said in a firm voice. "You're not being reasonable. I know you love me and will eventually see my point. I want you to be happy, and you'll give me this," she said, leaving the room. Sunday was like Saturday. I stayed in the workshop and returned for dinner. The next 2 weeks flew by as I worked late every evening. Each night, I asked Emily not to go on the trip. "Emily, please don't go. Call him and end it. Let's work on us," I pleaded. "Robert, I understand this is hard, but I need to go." "It's just 1 week, and then we'll go back to our relationship," she insisted. "So you'll keep seeing him? It's not just you and me?" I asked, feeling despair. "Yes, Robert. I'm sorry, but this is what I need." "If you love me, you'll understand," she said, her tone unwavering. This continued until the night before her departure. Lily finally came to me a few days after I overheard her and Emily. "Dad, stop avoiding me. We need to talk to solve this, please." "I love you," Lily said earnestly. "Lily, I could tell you why I'm angry, but someone else should explain," I responded, my voice heavy. "Someone else? What do you mean?" she asked, puzzled. "Ask your teacher, Mr. Harrington. You set him up with your mother to deceive me." "Maybe he can answer you," I said, watching her reaction. Lily was surprised I knew her role in Emily's lover, but she didn't look apologetic, just like her mother. "So, you know I introduced them." "How?" she asked, her voice calm. "I overheard your conversation with your mother," I replied. "It's just sex, Dad." "She doesn't love him," she said dismissively. "Why does everyone say that like it justifies it?" "Marriage is more than sex and love," I said, trying to make her understand. "She's leaving, and there's nothing you can do." "Do your best, and you'll keep getting what you deserve," Lily said, leaving the room. She left the room, dismissing me and my feelings. We avoided each other until her mother left. Finally, the day came. Emily was packed and waiting in the living room for the taxi. Lily was with her, chatting excitedly. I stayed in the workshop until I heard the car arrive. "My taxi is here, honey. I'd like to check out." "Bye." "This means nothing, you'll see," Emily called out, her voice carrying a forced cheerfulness. She waited for a response. "Aren't you going to kiss me goodbye?" she asked, a hint of expectation in her voice. "Nope," I replied flatly. As you wish, she said, her voice now tinged with resignation. Eventually, I heard the door close and Emily's heels on the kitchen floor, then the front door shut, followed by the sound of her suitcases and the car engine starting. It was the end of my marriage. I took the week off during Emily's absence and moved my things out quietly while Lily was at school. I moved my belongings from the guest room back to the bedroom, hoping to make Lily think I was staying to lull them into a false sense of security. I avoided mentioning my move or divorce, wanting Emily to believe I'd be there when she returned. She was due back Saturday evening, and I planned to be gone by then. Lily knew I was aware of her involvement in the affair and didn't hide her actions. One evening, as she prepared dinner, my phone rang with Emily's call, which I ignored. Then Lily's phone rang, and I overheard her conversation. "Hello, Mom. How was your trip?" "Sounds great." "No, he's here. Since he knows who it is and that I introduced you, there's no point in hiding. He moved his things back to your bedroom as soon as you left. He was bluffing, just like you said. I think he's come to terms with it." "Okay, I'll tell him. I love you." She then relayed Emily's message. "Mom asked me to tell you she loves you and that everything will be as before when she returns." I nodded, accepting her words. The rest of the week went similarly. I gradually moved my things to my new apartment, taking only personal belongings. On Friday evening, I realized my relationship with Lily was irreparably damaged. After dinner, Lily approached me. "Are you ever going to talk to me about anything other than grumbling and monosyllabic answers again? You forgave Mom, but what about me?" Lily asked, her voice a mix of frustration and hurt. I looked at her questioningly. "What makes you think I forgave your mother?" I asked, genuinely puzzled. "You moved back to the bedroom. That means you're going to sleep there with her and have forgiven her," she replied, her tone suggesting that this was an obvious conclusion. "Lily, I have not and will never forgive your mother. She ruined what we had," I said, my voice steady but filled with underlying pain. "I don't understand why you're acting this way," Lily responded, her voice rising in exasperation. "No, she wants it, and that's the difference. You're barely 18, Lily." "You don't fully understand," I replied, trying to maintain my composure. She stood up, angry. "Just because I'm 18 doesn't mean I can't understand what Mom is going through. She explained everything to me," she said, her voice defiant. I got angry too and raised my voice. "Yes, she explained it from her selfish point of view. She decided she was the only one who mattered," I shouted, unable to contain my frustration. "This is nonsense, Dad. She was here for you and me every day. When she finally did something for herself, you couldn't handle it," Lily retorted, her words cutting deep. Her words hurt deeply. "Oh, Dad, I'm so sorry," she added, suddenly realizing the impact of her words. The rage and hatred I felt towards my daughter at that moment were overwhelming. "Lily, don't ever talk to me again," I said, my voice cold and final. I walked out and went to my bedroom one last time, ignoring Lily's pleas. I spent the night collecting my remaining things, my heart heavy with the weight of shattered trust and broken relationships. I took a taxi from the airport instead of asking Rick for a ride. Since Lily told me Robert was back in the bedroom, I didn't want to upset Robert by seeing Rick. Everything was going well, and I didn't want to rock the boat. When I entered the house, the taxi driver brought my things inside. It was almost dinner time, and I expected Robert or Lily to have something ready, but there was nothing. Maybe Robert was planning a dinner to celebrate my return. I heard footsteps on the stairs, and Lily rushed to hug me, crying. "Hi, baby. I missed you too, but there's no need to cry," I said gently, trying to soothe her. She sobbed and trembled, clearly more than just missing me. I pulled her face away to look at her. "What's wrong, baby? Where's Dad?" I asked, concern filling my voice. She struggled to control her emotions, and after a few minutes, she spoke. "Dad moved out. I drove him away." "What are you talking about?" You told me he moved back to the bedroom, I said, confusion and worry battling within me. Yes, but last night we fought, and I said something terrible. This morning, he and his things were gone. There's a note on the table, she explained, her voice breaking. I saw the note, which I hadn't noticed before. With a growing sense of dread, I picked it up. It was printed from the computer except for Robert's signature. Emily, I hope your time in Hawaii with Rick Harrington was worth it because it cost you your marriage and might cost Rick his job. The school board will not accept your relationship. I've moved out, taking only my personal belongings. I'll eventually get my tools and woodworking supplies. I can't understand why your sexual needs became more important than our marriage. I was willing to forgive your year-long affair if you called off the trip and vowed never to see him again, but our marriage ended when the taxi left. I also can't understand why you involved our daughter in your affair. The disrespect she shows me is a result of your influence. You've likely damaged her ability to have a normal relationship. I've only left you and Lily physically. I didn't shirk my responsibilities. All your bills will continue to be paid automatically, and funds will be deposited into your household account for necessary expenses. Don't expect extra money for entertainment. Your pleasures don't concern me anymore. I left my email and phone number for emergencies. If you need anything, email me, and I'll decide if I'll fund the request. Don't flood my email with requests to come home or excuses. I'll delete them without reading. Michael knows where I live, but won't share this information. Security won't allow you into my office. If you try, I'll tell you the same thing I told Lily after her hateful speech. I don't want to talk to you or her ever again. Your selfish actions have damaged both relationships, and I will no longer be involved in your lives. I'm sure Lily will find someone to walk her down the aisle. I've loved you both for so long, but your attitude has reached a point of destruction. I will not allow you to do this to me. Tears streamed down my face as I finished reading Robert's letter. This wasn't how things were supposed to be. He was supposed to love me forever and understand that this wasn't about him or us. Involving Lily was a mistake, but it started with girl talk. She told me about her and Ryan, and I talked about Robert and me to build trust. I mentioned her grandma's affair, and Lily introduced me to Rick at her choir performance. He was handsome and sexy, and I enjoyed my time with Robert that evening. After that, Lily kept bringing him up, saying he wasn't looking for anything serious, just fun. I took the bait and started contacting him. One night while Robert was out of town, I invited Rick over for dinner. We ended up at his place, and I spent the night there. The next morning, Lily knew what happened. We talked about it like old friends. It was exciting, and I realized I could keep seeing Rick without Robert finding out. Rick and I met a couple of times a week, discreetly, for months. I made sure Rick wasn't getting too attached, and our affair continued. Approaching the anniversary of our first night together, Rick invited me to Hawaii. Robert and I had planned to go, but the thought of a week in paradise was too tempting. As a housewife, I couldn't justify such a long absence, but I convinced myself Robert wouldn't mind and would let me go. I thought if I explained there was no love between Rick and me, just sex, Robert would understand. That's why I told him 2 weeks in advance, hoping he'd come to terms with it. Obviously, that didn't happen. I was sure when I returned and things were the same, Robert would see it didn't damage him. But he left, and I underestimated his love for me. Now the love of my life is gone, but I'm resourceful and sure I can find him and convince him to see things my way. I might have to cool things with Rick for a while and convince Robert it's over before resuming. Robert's brother, Michael, knows his new address, but I doubt he'd help. Maybe Fiona, Michael's wife, would. Once I find Robert, I can probably convince him to come back. He didn't mention divorce, so he clearly doesn't want to lose me. He might be trying to get his point across with his "I never want to talk to you again" message, but I doubt he meant it. He'll realize he can't live without me. I'll start Monday by calling Fiona when Michael is at work. Until then, Lily and I will manage. It was a beautiful day, and I decided to relax by the pool. The apartment complex I had moved into had a pool, a fitness center, and a large common area for parties. I'd lived here for a couple of months. The first week was spent unpacking and working. For the next few weeks, I was depressed and just watched TV. Finally, I decided to live again and went to the pool to relax and get some sun. The water was probably too cool for me, but lying in the sun and reading was perfect. I went on a few dates, but no one caught my attention. I was still mourning the loss of my family and missing Emily, the woman I'd married. I'd been relaxing in a sun lounger for about an hour when a shadow fell over me. I opened my eyes and saw an attractive woman. "Hello, I haven't seen you here before." "Have you just moved in?" she asked, her voice friendly and curious. "About 2 months ago." "My name is Robert," I replied, offering a smile. "Michelle, nice to meet you." "May I join you?" she asked, gesturing to the lounge next to mine. "Of course, have a seat," I said, sitting up slightly to make room. She smiled and moved a lounge next to mine. She had long brown hair and a beautiful figure, with no wedding ring. She turned to me and asked, "So, Robert, are you recently divorced or just trying to appear single?" "Why do you ask?" I inquired, curious about her observation. "Your finger has a tan line where a wedding ring used to be," she said, her eyes sharp. "Very observant." "And you noticed I checked your finger too," I remarked, impressed by her attention to detail. "Well, I'm not divorced. I moved out while my wife was in Hawaii with her lover," I admitted, feeling a mix of emotions. "Oh my God, that must be an interesting story," she said, leaning in slightly. "It's not that interesting living it, but I can see how it might seem from the outside," I said, shrugging. "Any chance of reconciliation?" she asked, her tone empathetic. "No, I care about her, but what she did ended any chance of that," I said firmly. "You can tell me about it when you invite me to dinner tonight," she suggested, a playful smile on her lips. "Is there somewhere specific you want to go?" I asked, intrigued by her directness. "Someplace nice, and you'll ask me to dance." "My daughter is staying with my sister, so we can stay out late," she said, her eyes twinkling with anticipation. "Sounds good," I agreed, feeling a spark of excitement. Michelle looked at me and made direct eye contact. "Let me be clear, Robert, I like you and you seem to like me, but I don't sleep with married men, so if you want a chance, you'll need to sort out your marital status," she said, her voice firm but kind. "I think I just got the incentive I needed, but let's see how dinner goes first," I said, feeling a new sense of determination. We spent another hour relaxing by the pool, mostly in silence, saving conversation for dinner. As I got ready for my date with Michelle, I thought about this unexpected turn. I loved being married but wasn't sure about jumping into a new relationship. My feelings about Lily were complicated. She had said hurtful things, influenced by her mother's views. I knew I'd try to mend things with her eventually, but Emily was done. I wouldn't let her stop me from living my life, even if it meant paying her off. I picked Michelle up at 6 p.m., and we went to an elite Brazilian steakhouse downtown. I had been there before, but Michelle hadn't. She wore an emerald green dress that showed some skin on top. She looked stunning, and I told her so. "Thank you, sir." "You look good yourself," Michelle said with a smile. I took her hand and led her to my BMW, opening the door for her as my mother had taught me. We drove through downtown, talking about the places we passed. We held hands, and it felt comfortable. We were seated at a romantic table in a private alcove, thanks to a well-placed $50 bill. We settled in and were greeted by our server, Kelsey. We ordered drinks and started to talk. "Do I need to ask for another waitress?" Michelle asked. "Why?" I responded, confused. "If she keeps pestering you, I'll claw her eyes out, and I wouldn't want to do that," she said with a smile, a mischievous glint in her eyes. I saw the mischief in her eyes and smiled, but I made a mental note to tone it down just in case. She took my hand to calm me down. "Robert, I like you and want to get to know you better." "I didn't mean to offend the waitress," Michelle said softly. I'm flattered you laid your claim on me, I replied, feeling a warm glow. So, what do you do for a living? She asked, genuinely interested. I'm a mechanical engineer and senior VP at Alpha Logistics. And you? I inquired. I'm a loan officer at First National, though I could live off the alimony and child support from my ex-wife, Michelle said, her tone tinged with irony. Robert leaned back in his chair, absorbing Michelle's words. There was a hint of irony in her tone, but also a resilience that he found intriguing. They were both navigating the aftermath of broken relationships, yet here they were, finding solace in each other's company. So, what's your story? Robert asked, genuinely curious. How did you end up here? Michelle smiled, a mixture of amusement and sadness flickering in her eyes. Oh, it's not as dramatic as yours, but it has its moments. My ex-husband was a corporate lawyer, successful, charming, and, well, you can guess the rest. He found someone else, younger, and decided he didn't need me anymore. The divorce was messy, but I walked away with enough to start fresh. I've been focusing on my career and my daughter ever since. Robert nodded, feeling a deep connection with Michelle's experience. It's funny how life can take such unexpected turns. One minute, everything is stable and secure, and the next, it's all turned upside down. Michelle reached across the table, placing her hand over Robert's. But we're still here, Robert. We've been through hell, but we're still standing. And that's something to be proud of. He squeezed her hand, appreciating her strength. You're right. I guess we're both survivors. Their conversation flowed easily as the night went on, the initial awkwardness giving way to a comfortable familiarity. They shared stories, laughed at old memories, and found common ground in their struggles and hopes for the future. As they finished their meal, the ambience of the restaurant shifted with soft music playing in the background. Michelle's earlier suggestion to dance lingered in Robert's mind. He stood up and extended his hand toward her. May I have this dance? He asked, his tone playful yet sincere. Michelle's eyes sparkled as she accepted his hand. I'd love to. They moved to the small dance floor, surrounded by the warm glow of candlelight. The world outside faded as they swayed to the rhythm of the music, their connection deepening with each step. For the first time in a long while, Robert felt a sense of peace and hope. There was no rush, no pressure, just the simple joy of being in the moment with someone who understood his journey. As the night drew to a close, Robert walked Michelle to her door. They lingered on the doorstep, neither wanting the evening to end. Thank you for tonight, Michelle. I haven't felt this at ease in a long time, Robert said, his voice sincere. Thank you, Robert. Tonight was wonderful, Michelle replied, her smile warm and genuine. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Robert leaned in, gently pressing his lips to Michelle's. It was a soft, tender kiss, full of promise and the possibility of something new. When they finally pulled away, Michelle looked up at him, her expression thoughtful. Take your time, Robert. I know you're still healing. But when you're ready, I'll be here. Robert smiled, feeling a sense of clarity he hadn't had in months. I appreciate that, Michelle. I'm not rushing into anything, but I'd like to see where this goes. Me too, she replied, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. They said their goodbyes, and Robert walked back to his car, his mind a whirl of thoughts and emotions. As he drove home, he realized that he was finally starting to let go of the past. Emily and the life they had shared were behind him, and it was time to move forward. Over the next few weeks, Robert and Michelle continued to see each other, their relationship growing stronger with each encounter. Robert found himself looking forward to their time together, enjoying the sense of companionship and understanding they shared. Lily, still distant and hurt, slowly began to reach out to her father. Their conversations were tentative at first, but Robert made it clear that he was willing to work on repairing their relationship. It would take time, but he was determined to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. As for Emily, she continued to live in the house they had shared, clinging to the hope that Robert would return. But as time passed, it became clear that Robert was moving on. Eventually, she realized that she had lost him for good and began the process of accepting her new reality. In the months that followed, Robert's life gradually fell into a new rhythm. He found joy in his work, fulfillment in his relationship with Michelle, and a renewed sense of purpose in his life. He had weathered the storm, and now he was ready to embrace whatever the future held. One evening, as Robert and Michelle sat on the balcony of his apartment, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Robert took her hand and smiled. "I never thought I'd find happiness again after everything that happened," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "But you've shown me that it's possible." Michelle squeezed his hand, her heart swelling with affection. "You deserve it, Robert. We both do. And I'm glad we found each other." As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Robert knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in his life. The past was behind him, and with Michelle by his side, he was ready to face whatever came next. Together, they would write the rest of their story, filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities.